Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and in today's video we have actually some decently big news about the cadence of the start of the expansion here from Blizzard. A couple of other small news posts that we'll get to at the end of this video, but let's start off by just looking at the schedule of what's coming soon. So the 22nd of July, that is today as the time recording this, is going to be when the season ends and the M Plus title ends for NA. I think it'll be tomorrow for EU. Pre-patch comes out on the 23rd. That's not going to contain a whole lot of stuff. It's mostly got warbands, so it'll be good for it'll be a good time to like clean out your banks, any gear you've been holding on to and waiting for the account-wide transmog stuff. That should be in starting then as well, so you can get that done. You can delete those daggers that you've had on your mage so that you get the mog starting on when the pre-patch comes out. That sort of stuff will happen, but other than that, it'll be a pretty normal week. Then on the 30th, the pre-expansion event goes live. This is called Radiant Echoes, and it's similar to other pre-expansion events where there's some stuff out in the world you can go kill, some rewards, I think some cosmetics, and a lot of leveling, a lot of catch-up stuff. So if you want to get a fresh character geared up in some, I think, Veteran and Champion track Season 4 gear, you can get that from this. Then on the 20th of August, the PvP preseason begins with weekly resets, which I'm not a PvP scientist. I have seen some tweets from some PvPers that are confused about what exactly this means. I don't know. This was not a PvP video, so if you're a PvPer, maybe look for more info on that somewhere. On the 22nd then, which is a Thursday. On the 22nd, which is a Thursday, the early access begins and normal dungeons open. So if you've pre-purchased if you purchased the Epic Edition, you can play starting on that Thursday. Otherwise, you're waiting until the Monday of the 26th, which is also going to be when Dragonflight Season 4 PvE rewards stop. Heroic dungeons open up. So remember that normal Heroic and Mythic dungeons are all a step harder than they were in Dragonflight and in previous expansions, and give better rewards as well. So these Heroic dungeons that will be open between the 26th and the 10th are in many ways equivalent to old Mythic dungeons in terms of the relative power of the rewards to the raid when it comes out, and to the M Plus when it comes out. Well, I guess not to the M Plus because that's also shifted. But yeah, so that's coming out on 3 p.m. Pacific. Now, there still aren't details about some of the other stuff, whether it'll open on the 26th or the 22nd, stuff like professions, these sorts of things, how much exactly is going to be obtainable of those. But their stated goal is to make it not have anything super power involved to be able to play the early access event. Obviously, if you really want to min-max a character and get to Renown 20 or whatever on different things as fast as possible, which, by the way, Renown is now account-wide in War Within, that is, you're obviously, there will be some value in playing early. My suspicion is, though, that if you're a high-end focused player, a Mythic Raider, a Mythic Plus competitor, that kind of thing, that's your stuff, you really aren't giving up much except for the fun of playing in those first few days by missing out on the early access event. I do think it's icky that this is being gated behind money, and in particular, they added an extra day that wasn't initially. Initially, it was supposed to be a 3-day early access, and now it's somehow procced a 4th day into that window. So it's not great, but if you are somebody who has been holding out on purchasing this, I want to tell you, you probably, there's a very small chance that you're going to miss out on anything long-term that there's a very small chance you'll be able to inspect characters on the 10th and especially on the 17th and tell which ones had early access and which ones didn't. If there are some exploits or ways to get more powerful that only exist for the first couple days and then get patched out, there's a pretty good chance that since it's the start of the expansion, Blizzard will actually try and make sure that they fix those in a fair way, rather than doing the thing that sometimes happens later in an expansion where they're like, we don't really care about this. So this is, I would say you're pretty safe. I personally, of course, I'm going to play the early access. This is, my job, right? I'm making money, not spending money to do that. So but if I wasn't a streamer, if I wasn't playing, if I wasn't trying to make content, there's a decent chance I'd be not playing I'd maybe not start playing too much until I'd play the 26th, but honestly, if you're a high-end focused player, this time between the 22nd and the 10th is way freer than the time between the 10th and the 17th, which is, again, way freer than the time after the 17th. So if you're a, Mythic Raider, really high-end M+er, and you're looking for which days to schedule off from work, I would say these days are going to be hype. There's going to be a lot of people streaming. but it's mostly just leveling characters. That's the main stuff you're going to be doing here, and then, swoops of normal, and then heroic, and then mythic dungeons. But here's the big news. So on the 10th, we are going to see the start of Season 1 with heroic raids, Raid Finder Wing 1, which is earlier than Raid Finder Wing 1 usually would open with a heroic week, Mythic Zero dungeons, but not Mythic Plus dungeons, heroic seasonal dungeons, so they're going to swap out the 4 Season 2 dungeons from the heroic pool and put in the 4 returning dungeons, so Grim Batol, Mist Eterna Scythe, Necrotic Wake, and the other one. A new world boss and PvP Season 1 all starting on the 10th. So a lot of sources of hero track gear. Notably, they haven't said anything about delves, about when delve rewards start opening, about when you can start doing, say, tier 4, tier 8 delves for those different breakpoints in getting good gear from delves. Tier 8 and higher delves, you're getting hero track gear from your vault, which, if that's open earlier than the 10th, would be a big deal. If it opens on the 10th, I think is probably what I would expect. If it opens on the 17th or later, that's probably a little bit rough if you're a delve player that also wants to do some raiding or some M+ or whatever with your guild at some point. So they haven't said that in this post. I would kind of assume that delves rewards are capped at tier 4 until the 10th, and then they go up to full rewards from delves, something like that. But they haven't said anything about that. But then the big deal is that Mythic Raids and Mythic Plus dungeons open on the 17th. Raid Finder Wing 2 opens and Raid Story Difficulty opens, which is earlier than they said initially. Raid Story Difficulty was going to be delayed for a while. That got some pretty negative backlash. They're moving it up to the 17th. And Raid Finder 3 opens on the 24th, so they're also doing 1 Raid Finder Wing per week rather than per 2 weeks, which is the old cadence that used to happen for Raid Finder. So Raid Finder's accelerated, Story Difficulty's accelerated. Hard to find a problem with this. That seems like just a pretty universally good thing. I think the main thing that has driven controversy in this post is that Mythic Plus dungeons don't open until the 17th. Now, I'm pretty sure that the M0 dungeons that open on the 10th are on a daily rather than weekly lockout. And there's an argument to be made from Blizzard that says, okay, Mythic Zero dungeons now occupy a space in the difficulty curve and in the rewards curve that is what, plus 8s, plus 9s, plus 10s used to occupy before we squished the levels. So moving that, this is basically, in the past when there was a heroic week, what they started doing was they started opening M+, but capping the rewards that you could get from the M+, at, say, a +6. So if you did higher than a +6, you would get gear like it was a +6. What used to be a +6 is now all within the difficulty, even up to a +10, right, is all in the difficulty that is now a Mythic Zero dungeon. So there's an argument that this is similar to how that used to work. And I think that does make some sense logically. But I do think that it doesn't feel particularly great that you're going to be playing War Within for, if you've got the early access, for almost a full month before you can do Mythic Plus, which for many players that I know is the main way that they engage with World of Warcraft, right? The main thing that they're kind of logging into WoW to do is Mythic Plus dungeons, and the main thing that's exciting for them. So I think that this is probably a mistake from Blizzard to operate this way. I think that if they aren't comfortable opening Mythic Plus during a heroic week, it's probably better to just do away with the idea of a heroic week and go back to the Dragonflight status quo of everything opens at once, and then we would get Mythic Plus a week earlier. Because honestly, even waiting until the 10th for M+, I think for a lot of people is going to be, there are going to be people that will be ready to do some keys and stuff rather than just farming heroic dungeons for the 13th day in a row on their character. Not to mention people with multiple characters, but again, I don't think Blizzard should really care too much about people with multiple characters or whatever incentives are created with that, because there's definitely a strong argument that if you're somebody with multiple characters, this week's going to kind of, you're going to be doing Mythic Zero swoops on a lot of characters a lot of times per day. That's not really something that Blizzard should think about, but I think that a lot of people who kind of play the game more normally are going to be getting, I don't know, I guess antsy for M+ to be opening a little bit earlier, especially because there's all these new Xal'atath affixes. It looks pretty fun. So I think this is probably not worth to swap back to this, even as somebody for whom heroic raids being separated from mythic raids is really good for me personally. Mythic raid and heroic raid being open on the same week costs me a lot of hours of sleep. This is going to be very good for my quality of life is doing it this way, but I think that is not worth the price of taking away M+ from everybody for an extra week. So that being said, there are the M0 dungeons. Again, they are sort of like old +8s, +9s, something in that range. So there is still that difficulty available. It's kind of chiller as well. So maybe if people really, Blizzard really thinks okay, people will really like just having these M0 dungeons to kind of learn and practice in without a timer, without that kind of pressure, then maybe this will work out better than I'm expecting. But I do initially think that this is one of those things where I'm arguing against my own best interest, because this is great for me. I hope they do this personally for me. I would love to see it like this every time, but I don't know. I think the Blizzard are hesitant to actually put the M+ dungeons during Heroic Week, because then that's just farmable gear that's as good as you can get from Heroic Raid. But I don't know. I do think that would be probably better than this. It just feels so weird to, like, the hype cycle of this expansion. I guess there's going to be a lot of hype around it still, because it's coming out. You got leveling to do. You get to see all the beautiful new zones. But then there's really not actually, like, the stuff. I guess, once Heroic Raids and normal raids and stuff come out, you'll have stuff to do during this week. So maybe I'm complaining about an issue. I'm not even trying to complain. I'm just trying to provide some analysis here. Because again, for me personally, this is close to ideal for, like, I'm going to get to sleep a lot during some weeks that I don't normally get to sleep, which is pretty great for me. Okay, then we've also got some info about the end dates for Draconic Gladiator, Draconic Legend, all that kind of stuff, M+ title. We have the dungeons. Again, this is known information. Which dungeons are the level up dungeons? These are just all of the War Within dungeons, of which all of these will be the heroic dungeons until September 10th, when the Season 2 ones rotate out for the returning dungeons, even in the heroic pool, which I do think is probably cool. We've got some world bosses that'll be open up on the 10th as well. And here is a look at the reward track. So again, during the preseason, actually in heroic dungeons are scaling up in gear, as are M0 dungeons, scaling up in gear up until, I guess it's one season, one start. Okay, yeah, so this is just the Great Vault. So if you do heroic dungeons during the preseason, they're actually only one track better than normal dungeons. And then if you do them starting on the 10th, they're going to be 2 tracks better. And then veteran track, 3 tracks better than normal eye level, will also be available at this same time. So yeah, I guess the goal is going to be to get up to 567-ish gear, which obviously can be upgraded even higher to 580 if you bring them all the way up to Explorer 8. But of course, that's going to cost a little bit of the replacement Whelpling crests. And then starting on Season 1, you'll be able to get the veteran track gear from the M0 dungeons, kit yourself out in veteran track gear from M0 dungeons and from Raid Finder Wing 1, champion track gear from the raid, and hero track gear from the heroic raid, but they're not letting you get access to these same pieces of gear from M+ until the 17th. Okay. Yeah, and again, still no info about the delves, if delves are going to follow a similar, if delves have any kind of delay on when they're open. If delves don't have a delay on how they open, you'll be able to get better gear from delves than from dungeons until September 10th. So that's part of the reason I suspect there will be some sort of delay on the higher tiers of delves giving better rewards or being open. I think there was some data mined string that says like this opens on Season 1 for some of the delve things, but I'm surprised to not see that included in the schedule. So would love some clarification on that. In other news, if you want to do the pre-expansion patch quest line, you will want to complete the Harbinger quest line, which came out a month or something ago. I don't know, 2 months ago. I think it came out maybe even with Season 4. If you want to do the pre-patch event, you don't have to do this, but if you want to do the quest line, you do have to do that. Now, if you don't do that quest line, I think you're fine. I think they're not going to require you to do that to start the War Within quest line or anything, but yeah, if you really want to do all the quests and stuff, you make sure you've done the Harbinger one as well on at least one of your characters so that you can then go and do the actual pre-expansion quest line, which comes out with the pre-expansion patch maybe on the 30th with the event. There's also some more Mythic Raid testing. Olgrax, Sikran, which are early bosses, and Silken Court, which is a giga difficult late boss, are being retested. Would love to see what they've changed with Silken Court, because when that was raid tested the first time, it felt basically impossible, which is definitely cool, but it looks like they've got some ideas to maybe change. And they did mid-testing nerf a bunch of it as well, so will be cool to see what they've done that. Unfortunately, I'm out of town this time, so I will not be able to actually test it myself, so no videos coming from what's happening here from me, but a bunch of other great content creators, I'm sure, will be streaming and recording these updated fights. And then finally, if you want to use a level 60 character boost, don't do it today. Do it tomorrow, and you will get extra item levels on your gear. I doubt that anybody watching this video will be saved by this inclusion in the video, but if even one person does, then I'm very happy for it. Saved you a couple hundred eye levels. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the pacing of M+, Heroic Raid, Mythic Raid, all that stuff down in the comments below. I hope I've been able to explain somewhat clearly what exactly happens when. But if you have any questions as well, put them down below. And if I go read the comments, which I'm going to try to do, then I will reply to them. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.